They say your past defines you, but I learned it only defines you if you let it. We are worth more than our worst decisions, and I'm here to prove it. I came home with nothing but a bag and a dream, a heart full of pain but a vision to redeem. Gray sweatpants, white tee, but my soul was clean, 'cause freedom ain't the gate, it's the fight in between. They wrote me off, said he'll fall again, but they ain't seen a man reborn from within. Had to break old chains just to breathe again, had to lose myself to find who I've been. Now I walk with purpose, no mask, no front. I ain't hiding from my past, I confront what it was. See, the system took time, but it couldn't take my heart, and that's why my mindset got its start.
Well, welcome back with another edition of Conversations with Why Not Mindset. I am your host, Rustin Pangburn. John Reed, of course, is our co-host, and today we're sitting down with Terry Sewell. Thank you for sitting down with us. John knows Terry a little bit more than me. I have not had a chance to sit down and speak with Terry, so I'm going to let John go ahead and take the lead on this and do the introduction, and we'll just jump right into it.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rusty. So this is going to be a really interesting interview because, yes, I've known Terry and I've known him for some while now. However, Terry's story is not a happy story in Terry's life. And the two things we want to talk about, really. The first part of this conversation is going to be about extended sentences in the UK, how long they last for, and what effect they have on you for the rest of your life. And the second part, which we'll let Rusty have a little word to say with Terry on, is the impact that this has on your life and family and friends around you, because it has a serious impact, as we all know. So there we go. Now, just by way of an introduction, Terry, I know that you served a number of years. Perhaps you'd take a moment to tell us how long you served and why you served it. It was joint something, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was sentenced to joint enterprise, murder. I was sentenced to 13 years and I served almost 16.
And what's the reason for that? Why do you serve more than they sentence you to?
Parole reasons, probation, not filling out the right paperwork. Just that's how it was.
It's just another example.
Did you serve the entire 16, or did you get out and have to go back in?
So no, I served. So my sentence was 13 years. It was 12 years and 90 something days after my remand time. So they took my remand time off. So it was 13 years. I served 13 years, and carried on for another year and a half. So yeah, I went a year and a half over tariff.
Yeah, it's another example, Terry, of the state, if you like, of the judicial system in the UK. And it's not perfect by a very long chalk. And as this conversation will demonstrate later on, it's not perfect in the USA either. And it's not perfect in most countries around the world, which I have met people in. So, but you know, this is a terrible event to happen. I'm sure you have every sympathy with the person who died, you know, in many ways.
Oh yeah.
For all that they lost their life, in a way, they didn't suffer anymore. Once they're gone, they're gone. But as we'll come on to in the second part of the conversation, the repercussions for friends and family of them are extreme. But let's talk at the same time of yourself and how this impacted on your life. Because what age were you when you first went to prison for the crime?
So I turned 19 in July and I went to jail in October.
And you didn't expect to, or were you thinking this is going to happen?
I had a feeling I might go to jail, but I don't think I'd go to jail for what I went to jail for. Not in a million years.
And joint enterprise with how many others was it?
See, this is difficult because there should have been three of us. There's three of us on the night. Three of us got arrested. Two of us handed ourselves in. My Cody got found. He went hiding. We had two of us handed ourselves in. One of us was released, which obviously wasn't me. And me and my Cody went to jail. And the third person stayed out. And whilst on remand, my Cody killed himself. So I ended up just being me on a joint enterprise. sentence.
If it's a question you can answer, and by all means tell me if you can't, but if it is a question
Yeah.
you can answer, do you know who should have been the person? Who was the murderer?
It was proven in court. It was my Cody.
The guy that
You
died?
know. Yeah, it was proven in court that nothing I did. The jury asked um if there was anything that I did that night, would it have um killed him, and the pathologist and everyone said no.
And if I may say something, you did mention there was someone who didn't get remanded.
No, there
Is
was
it
three of us. Two of us went to
is
jail. One of us didn't.
is there a reason that person didn't get remanded?
I have no idea.
Is this the person you're speaking of that's no longer with us?
No, the one that
Okay.
got arrested, he killed himself in jail. My Cody killed himself in jail.
Were
My
you in the same
co-defendant.
prison, Terry? Were you both together in the same prison?
No, we were briefly. We went to court one day to get our I can't remember the name of it. It's my head.
Defense? You mean the defense?
No, yes, no. So we went there to get the date of our trial. That's
Okay.
the word.
Yeah.
And I saw him for the first time in a couple of months, and I didn't actually recognize him. He'd gone skinny. He'd shaved his hair off. He looked completely different to how I knew him. Um, they put us on the same sweatbox back to Reading. We went to Reading jail and we had a chat there. We was in the jail for a short time and then they moved him. I was trying to get him onto my wing because I was comfortable. I'd moved in. I'd been there for a little while. I was trying to get him onto my wing. The staff were like, yeah, as soon as there's a space, as soon as there's a space. And then one of the staff come up to me and said, no, we've moved him to High Down.
Somewhere
In
away.
High Down's where he killed himself.
Okay, so there's the question then. I didn't know this story, Rusty, up until this point. This is all news to me. What impact did his death have on you while you were still inside?
Good question.
It was hard because he was my friend. He is my friend, you know.
Was he somebody
So
you'd
it
known
was,
from school days and you'd known him a long time?
no, not that long, not that long. I moved to Portsmouth just before my 18th, so I weren't in Portsmouth for very long. I met him a couple of months into being in Portsmouth, so I knew him for about a year and a half. But I'd been homeless for most of my time in Portsmouth. I fell out with my parents because of drink and drugs. Um, and he let me stay at his place. He had like a little apartment every now and then. I could stay there if it was bad weather and stuff like that. So we become good friends, you know. The staff come in and told me on the day that he'd killed himself. And then it turns out later on, I found out that the day before he killed himself, no, 2 days before he killed himself, he sent out some letters to his parents and to his partner. The day before he killed himself, he had a visit with his mum. And then the day he killed himself, his mum got the letter. His mum rang the jail asking, like, what's going on? Like, he's saying that he's killing himself. And they said, no, he's fine. And then this is what I've been told, that, an hour or so later, the police were knocking at the door to inform her that her son was dead.
Well, that brings out a whole series of questions, doesn't it? And not least, I was under the impression that when you send a letter out of a prison, not just you, but any prisoner, it is read before it's posted, unless it
No,
leaks.
no,
Should be.
not all post.
So nobody
They
read
have to do a
before
certain,
it left.
they have to read a certain amount of letters. But obviously the amount of letters that's going through and there's only 2 or 3 staff to read it, they just scan it and let it go.
Belief, doesn't it? It's just, I'm sure it's similar in the States, Rusty, and come back to us by all means in a moment. But I'd like to explore this further because to me, this is an horrific series of events that at your young age at the time, you must have, oh, I can't imagine what was going through your head. Did it not send you over the top, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when I went to jail, as I say, I was homeless. I was drinking, I was smoking, I was taking pills, my head was a mess anyway. My everyone will tell you that I might have been 19, but mentally I was more like 14, 15.
Okay.
And yeah, my head was a pickle. My head was a mess. My depression was all over the place. And then it only got worse when my Cody killed himself. And then the day after, a friend opposite me, took his life as well because he had a bad phone call with his girlfriend. So yeah, my head went into a bit of a mess for a long time.
As you know, Terry, I spend a lot of time in prison talking to men, and it essentially centres around the situation with loneliness and how lonely people feel. And your story makes me realise, if I didn't know it already, and I do really, um, the loneliness you must have felt at that moment. Was there anybody in there, management-wise, staff-wise, doing anything to overcome your loneliness, your depression, your anxiety, your drug addiction, your drink, your alcohol, all the things that were affecting your brain? Did anybody make any effort to help you?
No, no.
I had officers. I had safe custody used to come up, but I wasn't able to talk to them. At that time, my head wasn't in a talking place like it is now, you know. So I ended up using safer custody because they used to give you 5 grams of tobacco if you asked them. So I basically ended up using them um, for my own benefit rather than using them for my own mental health. Um, there was a female officer that used to help me a lot. She used to come and talk to me and keep my head calm. She used to let me out of my cell when some of the others were locked up, just to clean the landing or clean the showers or something, just to get my head out of my own space.
That's great. That's good stuff.
So there was the odd officer, but not that many.
So she was obviously sympathetic to your situation. So
Yeah.
in effect, a great chunk of your life was taken from you for no reason.
Yeah. When you look into my offence, there's a lot to it that could have prevented the poor kid dying. I say kid, he was 19, he was the same age as me. But there was a lot of things, even after us. The police were there, the ambulance were there. Uh, instead of taking him to hospital with a head injury that he had, they took him home and sent him to bed. You know, he'd just been slapped over the head with a big bottle and knocked unconscious for however long. You know, he was in and out of consciousness. And they knew this, and they checked him and they said, oh yeah, well, he said he refused to go to hospital, so they took him home. So the police failed because they could have arrested him for his own safety because he'd a head injury. The ambulance failed because they should have took him to hospital. They'd been told that he'd been hit over the head and he needed help and that he'd been in and out of consciousness. But they sent him home and he died in his sleep and his mum found him in the morning.
Teeth. This is some story, Terry. Fantastic. I'll take a break for a moment, Rusty. You must have a load of questions.
I'm gonna have to lean into this. Yes, there is so much that needs to be done when it comes to the justice system. There is so much, and John is right when he says that it's not just United States wide, it's not just UK wide. I'm finding out through speaking with everyone that the justice system in this world can only go so far on its own. Real transformation needs to come from more than just the justice system, because the justice system is not going to fix itself, and their only explanation to fix anything is let's build more jails and prisons, and let's fund. There's plenty of funding for prosecution. There's plenty of funding for building prisons. There's plenty of funding for locking people up, but there's not enough funding for rehabilitation, mental health, mental well-being, trauma, PTSD. There's not enough. There's not enough. I am a nonprofit organization that knows about trying to get grants because I want to help people with the things that I didn't have when I was released, such as mentorship, such as mental well-being, such as guidance, a blueprint, tools, and trying to get funding for assistance. It would be a lot easier. It feels like to me if I would say I want to build a for-profit prison, I might have better luck.
Yes.
But I only did 60 months in federal prison for distribution of narcotics. I only did 60 months in the federal system. I don't know what it's like to have a murder charge on you, let alone a murder charge with no guilty. You wasn't guilty. But at the same time, Terry, you took that guilty plea. So
I didn't plead guilty. I don't plead guilty. I went not guilty the whole time.
You took it to the box. What they over here in America, you took it to trial. Is that right?
Yeah. I took it to trial. Yeah.
Prison term is I didn't plead guilty. I took it to the box. I took it to trial.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you took it to trial and you was found guilty. So
Yeah.
either way, what I think is what I'd like to touch on is what me and you have touched on a little bit on social media is the aftermath, because you and I, you're a little bit longer and more serious case than mine, but at the same time, you and I both I pled guilty, you were found guilty, and we were handed a sentence. So we paid what was owed. We got right with the house, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then we did our time and we were released. And then the system just expects us to just get along with it. And the truth is when you step out, prison takes away your identity and gives you a number. I was no longer Rustin Pangburn. I was federal inmate 187977045. I don't know exactly how the UK prison system works, but I'm sure your name was taken away and you was given a number. And then when you get out, after living that rigid, controlled environment, which I'm sure you've seen horrific things, and you have to desensitize your mind and get that mindset for the 5, 10, 15, in your case, 16 years, you're used to this controlled environment. And then one day you're released back into society and expected to flip a switch and just reintegrate. And it doesn't work that way. And they think that the system fits like a glove, and it doesn't fit like a glove. I want to talk a little bit more about how it was for you after serving 16 years and then getting out and having that stigma or that felon across your chest. How was that like for you? Because I know it was for me. For me, I got a letter. A letter was sent to Springfield, Missouri, that a known drug trafficker was entering into their area. And then I got a letter back with Greene County, Springfield, Missouri, accepting a drug trafficker coming into their area. So automatically, right off the jump, a year before I was released, I knew that Rustin Pangburn wasn't going to Springfield, Missouri. A drug trafficker was going to Springfield, Missouri. And that label shouldn't be on me because I did my time. I paid what was owed to society. So I'd like to have your take on that. How was that for you?
Yeah, it's difficult getting out. I've moved to a slightly different area to where I was, but I know for a fact there's a police officer that keeps an eye out for my name in particular. If I ever do anything wrong or anything, it goes straight to this police officer, and then that goes straight to my probation worker. I've never met this police officer. I don't know who it is. I've just been told that there is a designated police officer for me. Um, so that's not good. Obviously, I'm not doing anything wrong anyway. I'm now a family man. I've got a son. I've got a
Good
stepson.
for
I've got a
you.
missus. I've got
Good for you.
responsibilities.
Good for
Um,
you, man. Good for you.
but it's not easy getting out. Even I went to DCAT. Do you know about DCAT? What DCATs are?
No,
So,
no.
so the UK prison system, it starts with ACAT, which is the maximum security where
Okay.
the biggest, baddest people go. Then you can go through the system. Then it's BCAT, so it's slightly less security. CCAT, there's only one fence around the prison. Again, less security. And then you go DCAT, and some of the DCATs haven't even got a wall around it. The one that I was at, Spring Hill, hasn't even got a fence around it. People were literally absconding. They were just walking out. They'd just had enough. They're just walking out the front gate, you know. So you go there, you get a job, you start going home a little bit, but you go home like once a month for a couple of days. So they do try and reintegrate you
A little
to a certain
transition.
extent. Yeah, to a certain extent, but nothing gives you, after all those years, it's good. It does help. I can't imagine being released straight from prison to being back on road, because it is difficult. It is a difficult situation. As someone who gave up drink and drugs to come out and there's drink and drugs everywhere, it's a difficult situation to be in.
And inside as well.
Inside, oh yeah,
Inside there's just as much as there is
yeah,
inside. You were speaking of the DCAT and the BCAT. I relate that in the federal system as the high, medium, and low security.
yeah,
I started out in the medium security of the federal prison because I had a warrant and I didn't have a GED, and I graduated, got my GED, and got warrants lifted, and went from a medium to a low security, and then a little bit unlike you,
Come in.
I
Come
was
in.
just kicked out. It
I don't know.
was
Shut the door.
I went through what they called an RDAP, is residential drug abuse program, and if you complete that program, they guarantee you 6 months halfway house, 6 months in the
okay,
halfway house, and I completed that, so I got 6 months early release, but I was just kicked out. I had like $72 and change, and I landed in Springfield, Missouri, in a new town because I chose not to go to the new town, not my old town, because I knew what would happen if I went back.
yeah,
And they handed me a bus pass, a 2 week bus pass, and said, "You need to get a job within 2 weeks, or we're going to send you back because your bed's important and it can be filled." And at this point, I had never had a job before, Terry.
yeah,
I'd never filled out an application. I didn't know what a CV was. I've never paid taxes. I was I was a drug trafficker. I pled guilty. I was a drug trafficker. That's all I
yeah.
knew from the age of 14 on, was how to make money under the table. So I didn't know, I didn't have anyone to tell me, or any step downs to tell me, here's how it goes, here's what's supposed to happen, here's what I went through, this might help you, you might want to try this. It was just, you have 2 weeks to get a job. If you don't, you're going to go back to prison, and gave me a handshake and said good luck to you.
That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know which
Yeah,
is worse, though, really, Terry. When you think about it, I might point out, Rusty, that when Terry talks about DCAT, the cat bit stands for category, D category.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Um,
It makes
and
sense
as
now.
Terry says, there's no
sorry.
fence or walls around them. Um, and if you abscond, if you walk out, and then the police pick you up later, then you never go back to a DCAT. You go back to a C. So, sorry,
No,
am I wrong?
no, yeah. So
Oh,
they,
I apologise.
from what I believe, they're trying to do that. But I know several people that have walked out of DCATs and are back in DCATs within a
I
couple of months.
apologise. I didn't realise that. Sorry.
Yeah. No, 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 no.
I
It's
didn't
not
know
you,
that.
is it? It's how things are. It's how things are reported and how things
Yeah,
are, isn't it?
you're right.
When we went to DCAT, two of the lads, two of the lads had absconded. There were six of us. Two of them had absconded from other jails, and guess what? They absconded from this one too. So
I think the other thing to point out about DCAT is the guy that Terry was when he went to this prison, and he would have been on the main section of any other secure prison, would then be mixing with people who were in sex offenders prisons. Now, if ever the two met in a normal prison, he would fly, wouldn't it? People would start a fight to sort
yeah,
the sex offender out. But in a DCAT, when you're all in the same place, it's a very mixed
yeah.
world.
I think the one that I was in, there's no sex offenders allowed because there's no fence. And the green is changing now because they're building another prison on top of their Greenland. So there's going to be a cluster of jails now. There's going to be Grendon, Spring Hill, and another big one. But the green, the football pitch that we used to play on and do laps round and stuff, was also a public footpath. So the public could literally come on with their dogs and walk through the jail.
Really?
So because of that reason, there was no sex offenders allowed at that jail. But you are right. You are right. In other jails, there are sex offenders. There are the whoever you classed, everyone is in the same boat. That jail, though, no sex offenders allowed.
I've only ever been in one open prison. So
Yeah,
the other thing I want to point out, Rusty, which you may or may not know, is although Terry has now served his time, it will not be written out of his prison record for the rest of his life.
I'm on what they say is a life license. If I get arrested, there's a massive opportunity, even if I'm found not guilty for whatever offence. If I'm arrested, I go straight. I don't go to a police cell. I go straight back to prison, and there's a possibility I could be there for 4 or 5 years waiting for a parole board to say, well, why is this man in jail? He shouldn't be in jail. Let him out. You know, I have to wait for a parole board to become accessible for me to go home.
If you, for example, were involved in a car accident and somebody died, and there was a possibility of a manslaughter charge, you'd be in dire straits, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Tough.
Not fair.
You mentioned that you switched categories, which I see. I see you went from a higher security to a lower security. When I went from the medium to the low, I was in the medium so long that I got used to having cells and lockdowns and count times. I was in a federal system, and in the United States they have federal system and a state system. And I've never been in the state, but I've talked to a lot of people who've been in state, and I'm seeing the difference. And there are some differences, but from what I know, in federal there's hourly moves. If you go out to the yard, you can't just go back and forth. It's every hour there's a 5-minute move. And in the medium security, you go to your cell and there's 2 men to a cell and you're locked down. Where you get used to that dangerous when you're unlocked and you're out in the yard. Of course, you see bad things happen to other people. Maybe you might bump in and have something bad thing happen to you, but you get used to looking over your shoulder. You get used to when the last count time happens and the doors swing shut and they get locked. You actually have a peace of mind because you know your cellmate. You know him well enough, and you have a good rapport with your cellmate that you can sleep well for the next 9 hours before the doors pop and they get open. But when you switch and that's one mindset that I talk about. And then you get transferred to a lower security, and now you're into a low where there's no cells. You're in just a big open dorm with a bunch of bunks. And you have to change your mindset again because now you're used to that rigid, controlled environment, and you're switched and you're thrown into a lower security, and you just don't. People are a little bit more friendly, but you don't want to be friendly. You're used to that mindset of don't talk to me, and if you do, what's your angle? And then you have to switch into that lower mindset, and again, it's even worse when they just dump you out. So, how was that like going from the higher security to the lower security? Did you face similar mindsets?
So my higher security, I started in Reading, and then I went to Ellesbury Prison, which at the time they're YOIs, so it's 18 to 21-year-olds. Um, Ellesbury Prison at the time was like the high security for the young offenders. And I was in there. Um, in Reading, I was quite relaxed. You know, there's hope in a remand jail. There's hope that you can go home. There's always people leaving, getting bail. There's always someone going home. There's people getting sentenced, obviously, but there's always someone going home. So there's always that hope. A week after I was sentenced, I was sent to Ellesbury. I moved on to the lifer wing after a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And I started meeting guys with like 30, 40 years, and they're younger than me. You know, I was like, oh, wow, what a place. And I'm looking at what's going on. Um, you know, I had my own room, my own cell.
Single
Um,
single cell?
Single cell, yep, single cell.
Ooh,
I was in single cell
Cadillac.
originally. I was in single cell originally because obviously my case is a murder case. So they then worry about you coming off addiction issues and stuff like that. The only reason they started putting me in with other people was for my own protection. After my Cody died and my mate across the hall died, they then decided to start putting people in with me for my own protection to make sure that I didn't do anything. And if I did, there was someone there to stop me. Um, but yes, a lot of the jails, you go double cell and then you have to work your way to get to a single cell. And in this jail I think there was all single cells because it's all high risk people. But
Did
then,
you have did you have yard moves? Was you able to go outside, or was you locked in 23 hours a day?
then you have, obviously you have your different wings, your different units. You have move time to go to work, to go to education, to go to, um, the laundry, to go to healthcare, to go to stuff like that. You get like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then it's locked off, and then you're locked on the unit. If you don't have a job, you stay behind your door until they do exercise. You get half hour. Every unit has a yard that they can go on their own yard.
It's
Um,
tough. Tough.
so it's yeah. If you don't go off the unit, you literally only see the people on your unit for however long. Um, that was my high category jail. I then turned 21 and they shipped me to HMP Kingston, which was a lifer jail. It's shut down now. It's now a block of flats. Quite nice houses, but it's really weird to go past. Um, but yeah, it was a lifer jail, and that
Mm.
was a weird experience going from being around children because we were children, you know, being around kids to going to an adult jail, and then it's not just the officers that are adults, you know, if the prisoners are adults too.
Yeah, of
Um,
course, of course.
I remember being down because we went there. There was six of us, and this guy come down and started telling us what to do and stuff like that. And my mate started calling him Gov. Yes, Gov. Cheers, boss. He's like, don't call me Gov. I'm one of you. I'm a prisoner. Like, don't call me. And he's like, you're a prisoner? Oh. And he had that realization himself that, hang on a minute, you're now in adult jail, you know. And we went on the units, and instead of people having 30 years, we were meeting people that had served 30 years, you know. So that was a big shock. Um, but yeah, you move through the categories, you see the changes, you know, it's weird in the UK. The higher categories, the more things you can have. So I never went to ACAT, the highest category, but I know many that have. And they say they have cooking facilities, they have fryers, they have this, they have that. BCAT, which is one of the lower securities, sometimes you're arguing just to have a microwave to warm some food up, you
It's
know.
the opposite. It's the
Yeah,
absolute opposite here.
okay. No, yeah,
It's
here you have all the stuff, but it's higher security, so you have higher risk, higher this, higher that. So
mm, mm.
So there are comparisons here, but there are also opposites as well, aren't there? Let's go back to where we were to a certain extent, Terry. How did it work out with friends and family on the outside after you were sentenced?
So before I was sentenced, I started pushing people away. I pushed my partner away. I pushed friends away. I started telling lies to them. Anything that I knew that would push them away, because I had a feeling, even though I knew that I never killed no one, I had a feeling that I was going to jail. So I tried pushing every way. So for my own protection, I don't want people around me waiting for me. I wanted just to get on with it, just to get it done. And when I was sentenced, the day I was sentenced, it took the jury 20 minutes to find me guilty. Um, my mum said to my solicitor or barrister, when they went away, my mum said to them, "Is it worth staying? Is it going to be today?" He goes, "No, it'll be a day, couple of days maybe. I'll give you a ring when." And they were literally down the road, and I got the guilty verdict. And my mum said it was heartbreaking. The prison let me phone her when I eventually got back to the prison. I was found guilty and sentenced within half an hour, and sent down to the cells. And there's a lot of head mess in that time that's a bit of a blur. But yeah, it was hard. It was hard on everyone. My current missus was my missus then, and it broke her, and I can still see it today. We've been back together for 7 years, 8 years, um, and I still see the damage from me pushing her away. My mum is the same. She always stays in contact now, because it messed everyone up. It messed my brothers up, messed my sisters up, you know.
So let's to some extent, I'm thinking, Rusty. I want to ask my last question really, and leave the last section for you. But where does this leave you in life? For me, I think I know how I would feel if I'd gone through the experience that you have. And I also know that you're doing your very best to rebuild your life. But would it have been altered very much if rehabilitation had truly taken place in prison? And what about restorative justice? Did you ever meet the family of the guy that died?
So, to answer the last question, no. I've done a restorative justice course, Sycamore Tree, they call it.
Yes,
I believe they're shutting it down in prisons. I think that's a wrong idea.
an idea.
I think it is a good course. I think it does make you think, and it made me realize. So there's a section in it called the ripple effect. I think we talked about this, Rustin, the other week. So originally it was, in my head, it was me, my family, my Cody's family, like the main people involved, the victim's family, the three of us, the three of them, all of our families. And then you look at the wider aspect of it wasn't just them that was affected. There was people watching from the windows, up all night. One of them was waiting for their kid to come home and didn't know if that was their kid outside. That the whole road got blocked off, and it's a main road around the area, was blocked off, so it would have affected them as well. I did talk to the restorative justice team about potentially meeting. I talked to two different restorative justice teams, in two different jails, about trying to put it out there and say I'd like to talk to them if they talk to me, and I get it if they don't. It's not easy, you
No, of
know.
course not.
Um,
They never
but
wanted.
I have no. Well, I don't think it was ever asked, because the restorative justice side has to come from the victim or the victim's family in my case, and I've heard on my parole board, they wrote an impact statement. His mum wrote an impact statement, and just reading that, she will never ever want to face to face with me. The issue with that is she will never know the truth of what happened that night. You know, she's been that her impact statement tells me that she's been fed mistruths.
Misinformation.
Yeah, you know, and
Shame.
I'd like to put her mind to rest. I can never put her mind to rest. I can never fix her heart. You know, I can
She's
never
not going
bring
to
her.
believe it.
No, and exactly. So, um, you know, I'd like to tell her the truth, but it has to come from her if she wants it.
I understand that absolutely, Terry. What about rehabilitation? When you came out of those gates finally,
Yeah.
how well equipped had you been made by the prison service to deal with life? A job, for example. You know, had you got
So I've done training.
yeah,
I did train. I enjoy cooking. I love cooking. I love, it's not, technically it's not even cooking that I love. It's it's the after effect. It's when I give you a plate of food and you're sat there, you see that plate of food and you get that grin on your face and then you smell it, you see it, you know that you're going to be well fed. You look at it, you eat it, and then you get and you get all the noises that come. That's the bit that I love with food.
okay.
You know, that's the bit that I love with food. So I trained
Amazing.
to make people
Amazing.
happy. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make people happy, and food is a great way of making people happy. So I done training. I worked in kitchens. I done educational courses. Um, I got out. My probation worker was a very good probation worker. I can't say a bad word about her. She was very good to me. She said to me, look, just relax, just get back into it. You've been away for a long time. Things have changed. Just get back into it slowly, slowly. And I started telling her I've got this job interview. I've got that job interview. I've got this coming up. And she's like, just relax, just breathe. You've been away a long time. You don't need to get a job. I'm telling you, you don't need a job right now. In my head, I've got a missus. I've got a child on the way. I've got a stepson. I need to step up. I need to pay the bills. I need to get the money coming in.
Absolutely.
And I got a job. And well, first I got several knockbacks. All the interviews went really, really well. And then they ask if you have a criminal conviction, and I'm not allowed to lie. I have to tell them that I have a criminal conviction, and it will never be spent. It will never be spent. And then they ask why, what happened, and when you try and explain it, obviously then they go away, they look at it, and they can't, people can't see past the murder, whether it was me that done it, and I'm trying to explain, look, it wasn't me, but this is why, this was the law at the time, this is why I went to jail. People can't see past it. You know, and it's sad, you know, I will put 100% into everything that I do. I ended up with a job, and my job was making toast, making eggs, and putting some food on a plate. And I was like, well, it pays the bills. Then I got another job, and then I got another job, and now I'm jobless. So
Yeah, I
I'm
know
on the
you are
job
at the
hunt.
moment.
I'm on the job hunt again.
I know you are, and maybe this podcast will help things. But you know, in my mind, if I were looking for somebody totally honest, totally reliable, and totally worthy of my wages that I will pay him for doing a job that I know he does very well, you would never have to have a problem with me. And I don't think anybody should have a problem. And that's the strength of a podcast, isn't it? That we get to know somebody a lot better and see their side of the story. We're not trying to make excuses for you. We're not trying to say, no, he was a really good boy. You know, he did nothing wrong, etc. We know you did nothing to deserve 16 years. Most people would say he didn't deserve 16 weeks, let alone years. However, we're not here to judge you at all. We're here to highlight the fact that people do get these things in their life, and it's not a good system that you went through. So, for me, Terry, I've got no more questions, but I'm sure Rusty would want to finish off with a few.
Well, a couple things about about the ripple effect. I want to go back to when you were talking about your family while you was inside. We did speak about this when there was a time in my sentence when I was rejecting all visits. I did have my mother wanting to come and see me.
Yeah.
I remember in our conversation that you and I had, what I didn't realize was, in my mind, I didn't want my mother to have to go through, my family members to go through seeing me in the cage. And at the same time, you hit something at home really hard for me. Was that was selfish of me because of the ripple effect, because of what I did. It didn't just happen to me. I threw that rock in the pond. I created that ripple effect that touched every one of my loved ones' lives. And my mother was brokenhearted. She probably needed to see me. It probably would have helped my mother to come and see me. But instead, I told her, if you come in, I don't want you to take the long bus ride, but if you do, I will not accept your visit. So it has, since we've had this conversation, it never occurred to me. It really never did, Terry, until just a couple weeks ago when we had that conversation. And since my mother has since passed, that I probably was selfish and I didn't see it that way. And I'm glad you brought that up to me, because it made me think, what my mother must have been going through. My mother did just fine on her own, but what did I do to her by telling her, no, you can't come and see me, and if you do, I'm going to refuse your visit, and all this
Yeah.
stuff. That's
Very
what
harsh.
that's Yeah, it was very harsh. And at the time, I thought I was doing her service by not letting her see her baby boy behind bars, in the khakis, in a cage, as a criminal. And in reality, I was punishing her for my mistakes that I made. So that I never saw that until you brought that up. When I was released, there was really nothing. It was really hard. When you talk about the victims, I wrote about this in my book. There's a chapter in my book that's called The Ripple Effect. And in one of the stories in there, it is me. In all reality, what I was trying to do was, I guess, make amends for all the destruction I left in my wake when I went into prison. I I wasn't just peddling little bitty tiny bags. I was moving states worth of quantity through this country, and I was destroying lives. Well, before I became the large person that I was, I there was a family that of a husband that I was dealing with, that he ended up getting really addicted and getting really involved with drugs, and I destroyed a family to break it all down. And at the time, they had little tiny children, and I I'm not going to talk too much about that part, but what I want to get into about the victim part, I was volunteering at a church, because this was before my incarceration. I was volunteering at a church and handing out sandwiches and food, and a little girl came to me, and she didn't ask for food right now. She asked for a couple extra sandwiches for later, for her and her brother, in case her mother couldn't come show up. And I, of course, said, yeah, no problem. At that time, what I was just trying to do was just make up for all the bad things I did. I sobered up, and I was feeling bad, waiting on my court case. And it was a couple days later, while I'm volunteering there, a woman came with her two children. I didn't recognize. I recognized that little girl that I gave the sandwich to, but the mother. When I saw the mother, I realized who that woman was, because this was like 5 or 6 years later, and this was a woman that I destroyed her family. It was me that destroyed her family, and her husband was locked up in prison. And I remember the little girl at the time had to have been 6 or 7 years old, but when I saw them last, she might have been 2 or 3. So I didn't recognize the little girl or the little boy, but I recognized the mother. And it just broke my heart, Terry. It just crushed me to see the damage I'd done to one family that let me know what's that's just one little tiny town. Imagine the states that I dealt with, and imagine the destruction I left in my wake, the ripple effect I left in my wake. So that's why I had a warrant for my arrest, because I didn't finish my 90. All I had to do was 90 hours community service is all I had to do. So I was at a church volunteering for 90 hours, passing out food, but I was so ashamed of myself that I left and I never went back, and I forged all the signatures. And the judge called that church and said, "Hey, did he do this?" And the church said he only showed up like 3 days, and he didn't stay 90 hours. He stayed like 5 hours. So that gave me a warrant for my arrest. So just the ripple effect, whether it's good or it's every little thing you do causes a ripple effect, whether it's good or bad. Mine was that because I couldn't face the destruction that I caused, I had to do extra time, and I had to go to a higher security prison. So just that ripple effect of
Yeah.
just those 2 points is what I wanted to get along. It was just really rough, and so I believe we are getting close to our time, aren't we, John?
I think so, yes, and that's why I made my last question. Yeah, just round it up now, Rusty.
Well, Terry, I do go and speak in universities, and I also have mentees, and I'm getting ready to be onto a podcast where the prisoners are going to be writing me. I would like to have two quick questions. If there was something you could tell to a future generation, a future change maker, hang on. What would you want to say to a future lawmaker, a future change maker, a criminologist in school studying to be in law enforcement or in the criminal justice system? What would you have to say to them? And the second follow-up is, what would you have to say to someone who is on their last year in, wanting to go out?
So to people wanting to get into the criminal justice system to be lawyers and criminologists and stuff like that, if you are working with people, remember that they are people. You know, I am a human. I'm not a number.
Thank you.
I am not. I've got 2 prison numbers. You have over here, you have a prison number and you have a nomis number. So I have LB9637. That is my prison number. I have A7473AC, which is my nomis number.
Mm-hmm.
That is not me. My name is Terry Sewell. Remember that we are human. People do make mistakes, but people can change.
Thank you.
And to people that are on their way out, there is hope, and there are people that do give second chances. And if you get it, grab it with both arms, because life inside is not life. You're living, but you're not breathing, if that makes sense. You know, find something to focus on, find something to keep you out. And if you do struggle, which you will do, because it's not easy out here, have someone that you can go to and you can turn to and you can ask for help. Because if you end up back inside, you're only going to regret it.
Great words. Great words.
That's
Terry. Well
very
done.
powerful. Very powerful. Thank you for sitting down with us, Terry. I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button. Terry, John, stay on. And thank you, Terry, for sitting down with us.
No worries. It's
Terry
been great.
Terry Sewell, everyone. Thank you.